this meeting to order of the Finance Committee on Wednesday, September. Oh, are we good to go?
We're good.
I'm sorry, I just like jumped in and he was quite Johnny on the spot, so appreciate that very much. The Wednesday, September 6th, Finance Committee meeting, McLean County Board, and we have all members present, so we have a quorum. We do have consent agenda. We do not have any meeting minutes, and our total bills are for $720,689.91, been approved by the auditor as complying to the McLean County adopted ordinance resolutions and policies. May I have a motion for the consent agenda to be approved? We have a motion by member Roseman and a second by member Rogal. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Do we have any appearances of the members of the public or county employees?
We've had no requests to speak this evening.
Very good. We'll move on then to the departmental matters, and we have Marshall Thompson, the Director of Animal Control, and she is here, but do you have anything, would you like to share anything?
You can come up to the
Please
end
come
or to the podium, whichever
forward.
you prefer.
Nah.
Everything's going really well. I apologize, I don't have reports, but I'm having technical difficulties with reports. So IT is helping me work through that, so I should have them by next meeting. But things are going well, the construction repairs are moving right along and things are starting to come back together. So we're really excited to see all those things and get the animal control back to where it was.
Are there any questions for our Director of Animal Control? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Moving on to Kathy Michael, County Clerk, she is here also. And that would be 4B1A, and that is request approval of a resolution to increase the election judges' compensation, and that is found on pages 3 and 4 of our packet. And may I have a motion to put that on the floor? We have a motion by Vice Chair Lehman and a second by Member Rogal. And Kathy, Ms. Michael, would you like to come forward and provide any additional insight to this request to increase it by $20, correct?
Sure, it's pretty self-explanatory, but if you have any questions, I will answer them for you. They get a whopping extra $20, paid for by the State Board of Elections, but we have to go through this formality to have it passed by the county board.
So it has no impact on our levy?
That's correct.
I'm not sure that is gonna be a big deal.
I hate to tell you, just no, but.
But we still have to go through it, so, so we have that motion to increase, so may, all in favor of increasing the, election judges' compensation, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
She does have her monthly reports in the packet. Are there any questions or that you would have for her at this time? Okay, it looks like everybody is feeling good with the outcome of your reports, so we will move on then. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Tim Jorzak is the Supervisor of Assessment. He is probably not here,
He does not have anything for
and he
us
has
or
nothing
information,
for us.
but he is not present.
And I do know that we did have some meetings. I just would like to share a number of board members were up in Lexington. We had a meeting in Lexington. I can't remember the date of that.
Week ago, yeah.
Okay, and there were a number of board members there and very good meeting. I would say maybe 20 some people there or so.
I was expecting more.
But so it was a good meeting and we had a little technical issues with the slideshow, but other than that, I think everything was good, and he does a fine job, and Ms. Michael and Ms. McNeil were also there, and so everybody appreciates having staff members available for questions, so it was a good meeting, so I just wanted to acknowledge his efforts as well as the efforts of Ms. Michael and Ms. McNeil, so. Moving on to 4D, we have Michelle Anderson, and I think Michelle only has this.
I'll be representing.
You'll do that one, okay, so Michelle is not presenting anything, but we do have a single audit report that is going to be discussed under the administrator's section, so we have nothing with Ms. Anderson. But Ms. McNeil, our county treasurer, has two items that we need to address. 4E1A, that's request approval of a resolution authorizing the county board chair to execute a deed of covenants, so that would be on pages 13 and 14. And may I have a motion for that? We have a motion by member Friedrich and a second by member Roseman. And that is something we've seen before, so Ms. McNeil, are you available?
Let's see her, she is not here.
Okay, that's okay, I think this is, as we all know, these are taxing, in fact, she outlined it pretty clearly on page 13. And that is the delinquent tax liquidation program. So, does anybody have any questions for that? All right, seeing nothing on that, then we will, all in favor of, I think, I did not get, I'm
Yeah,
so
you
sorry.
have Friedrich Roseman.
We did get Friedrich and Roseman, okay, I thought I did, but I'm kind of rolling a little quickly, so I apologize. And no need, right? 4E1A, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The motion passes. 4E1B, and that's accept and place on file the county treasurer's monthly financial reports. And may I have a motion to put that on the floor? We have a motion by member Roseman and a second by member Rogel. And she is not here. And I know I have mine somewhere. Here, there. Thank you. Are there anything that sticks out that we would need to address or have a conversation with her? I can certainly do that for the group, or we can individually go and have conversation. Is there? Doesn't look like anyone has any major concerns about any of the reporting. All right, all in favor of accepting and placing on file the county treasurer's monthly financial report, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes. Moving on then to 4F1A, and that's accept and place on file the single audit report for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2022. And that is a report of the federal awards. So we have to have a special audit for any of our federal grants and various things. Ms. McNeil is here, so I don't know if we want to back up.
We've already approved it.
You've already approved it. Does anybody have any questions for Ms. McNeil on the report? Okay. We will continue then. So may I have a motion for 4F1A? We have a motion by Vice Chair Lehman and a second by Member Friedrich. And Ms. Taylor.
Yes, so our auditor and our outside auditors with CLA, neither were able to be here this evening, so I will very briefly explain the single audit report and its findings and try to do it justice. If there's detailed questions, I will probably refer back to CLA for those responses, but I feel like I can give you a good overview of this report that you have before you. So the single audit is an audit conducted for the county's federal programs. Our expenditures on the single audit report total 13.5 million. So each year our outside auditors select a specific program or certain programs to test. And this year they selected the American Rescue Plan program, the ARPA program. That's not surprising because that was our largest new program, and the expenditures from the ARPA were 9.2 million of that total 13.5 million. Clifton Larson Allen gave the county a clean opinion, which means that they did not find any material weaknesses in our internal controls. They did find one significant deficiency, that's how it's stated in their audit. And that was, so just to explain that, that is the lowest level of audit finding and it does not impact the auditor's opinion. For reference, last year we had 4 of these findings, this year there's just 1.
I think it's found on page 7, is that not correct?
It's on the last page. Last page of the sale audit report. So this finding is related to purchases made with the ARPA funds that were either sole source determination spending or an emergency purchase. And so there was not an issue with the expenditures themselves. They did go through our procurement policies that we have for you in the next requested ordinance, but the issue was they did not go through traditional competitive bidding processes because they were emergency spending or it was sole source. So that's a little different from our request for proposals where we're bidding out to multiple agencies. So the purchases were appropriate within the uses described by ARPA, but they were not documented as such prior to the expenditure. So when you have a sole source determination or an emergency expenditure, the auditor is recommending that we have a documentation that follows that prior to the spending. And so from this purchase that was made in 2022, they have made some recommendations for our corrective action plan. First is that we have staff go back through the purchases that were made in the first half of 2023 so that we have documentation for any purchases that might be similar from the first half of 2023. Because this audit obviously just goes through the end of December in 2022.
So that's to validate that this didn't continue.
Correct. The second is a corrective action plan that has been created that updates our procurement policy. That is included in this evening's agenda and includes, lastly, it includes a recommendation from CLA to use a federal procurement checklist so that we can follow that checklist for proper documentation that covers the uniform grant guidance requirements from the federal government. So we think that this would be not only for ARPA funding, but this would be a great tool for us to use for all of our departments that use federal grant funds. The checklist is to be completed prior to making purchases with federal funds, and then it gets retained with all of the procurement documents. So in summary, overall, this was a clean audit, no material weaknesses, and the minor finding is being resolved with the explanation I just gave, and we do not expect to see that in future audits.
Any questions from the committee?
What purchase was flagged? Can you share that or?
Does it list the specific?
Infraction, what are,
It was the MAG cards at the Law and Justice Center.
That's right.
And they
What?
were sole source.
So we have, Seiko is the company that we use for the keyless entry into our locked doors, the magnetic cards that we use for our locked doors. And so because we wanna utilize the same system throughout, that was a sole source procurement.
And that was for the jail.
for the law justice center. Not the jail itself, but the judges' rooms, probation, state center.
What was that again? What did Kathy say? I didn't hear.
She said it was for the mag cards with some,
Magnetic cards.
I know, but I'm trying to put it on the record. Can we get it on the record so we have what it was? I mean, I couldn't hear it. Oh.
Yeah.
You didn't get that on the record. Do you think it picked her up? I'm pretty sure it didn't.
I think it did.
It's throughout the whole room,
Alright,
everything said.
that's all.
but
I'll
yes,
make
it was
sure
for the magnetic keyless entry in the Law and Justice Center, and the company was Seiko.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Yep.
Well, I didn't hear it. Is that okay? Can I ask a question if I don't hear very well?
Yes, you can.
Thank you.
Any other
Glad I
questions?
got your permission.
Alright, I see none. All in favor of accepting and placing on file the single audit report for fiscal year ending December 31st, 2022 for F1A, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Very good, the motion passes. We're going to 4F1B, request approval, here we go, of an ordinance by the McLean County Board amending chapter 116, purchasing and contract of the McLean County Code, and that's found on pages 15 through 35. May I have a motion to put this on the floor? We have a motion by member Roseman and a second by Vice Chair Lehman and Ms. Taylor.
So in addition to the recommendations from CLA, we have been looking at this for quite a while, our procurement code. We wanted to make adjustments to this code, kind of like a housekeeping for looking at language that was outdated, for processes that were no longer being utilized because they did not fit current function with either our electronic New World system or for other reasons, and then also to update ourselves with the most recent government standards as recommended by CLA. So we have that before you with cross-outs indicating things that we do not feel are necessary anymore, and then underlined with the changes that were made. So we did identify several definitions that we thought would be helpful for staff and for the board. So we increased the definitions and then also some other changes as well, as you can see.
Did I miss where the anti-discrimination policy has been placed? I'm just trying to find that.
It was moved to
I think it was moved, but I couldn't. So it was just picked up and moved. There were not additions or corrections made to that. Is that?
It is on page 20. And there are a few changes to that, mostly cleanup language in that.
Right, but nothing added, there was not any need to change or add anything, to that policy.
No. The way that we've stated these in reference to, the different, federal civil rights laws, would automatically update as those laws are updated, so.
Okay, perfect, alright, thank you. Alright, any additional questions? Alright, all in favor of approving 4F1B, and that is the ordinance, request approval of that ordinance for the McLean County purchasing contract, chapter 116, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Very good, motion passes. Moving on to 4F1C, and that's request approval of the reclassification in the state's attorney's office. And that was handed out to us, I believe.
Yes, that was distributed to you. You also, I believe, received an email copy of the same. And we have the state's attorney, Erica Reynolds, here to have further questions.
All right, so let's get this on the floor first. May I have a motion for 4F1C? We have a motion by Member Rogal and a second by Member Faber. And the floor is yours, Ms. Reynolds.
So I'm here to ask essentially to reclassify the assistant state's attorneys in our office. This is hopefully competitive with market. I can't guarantee that it will be it and that I won't be here months from now asking for another adjustment. But extensive research was done by looking at comparable counties or counties that are geographically close to us, comparing what their 2023 projected budgets are, because that's all that's available, and trying to compete with those values.
So there was no, there was no salary survey information that was conducted from the HR side. You had to do that from the finance side, is that accurate?
Well, it's a combination, so
Yeah.
the salary study, pardon me, may I?
No, please.
May I address?
Yeah.
The salary study, information that we utilized in our compensation study from 2022 had increases adjusted for the 2024 year, but with the market fluctuations with attorneys, they were not up to date. And so Erica and her staff created a follow-up with, as she just described, with comparable counties in central Illinois to update those plans.
And I'm not saying there was anything wrong with that, because I know that salary surveys are generally about a year behind. The data is not always as fresh as we need it to be, and especially in this environment, I think, but.
Yeah, and just to give an example, I believe that Sangamon County was looked at as a comparable under the salary study. And obviously that they capture that at a moment in time. And after that was captured, the state's attorney down there went and asked for a $25,000 pay increase for every assistant across the board, basically. And luckily they produced theirs quarterly. And so theirs is closer to real time. And so we were able to see that, and that's why our numbers appear to be outdated. But as of yesterday, my 7th person left the office for the Logan County Public Defender position with a significant pay increase that is just impossible to consider because it's a head public defender. So it's considered a department head down there. I have a 7-11 that's filling one of those 7 positions, and then a part-timer that's filling a portion of one of those positions.
Are these vacancies on the civil or judicial side?
Criminal.
Criminal?
Yes. I don't have as hard of a time filling the criminal division, or the civil division.
So it's all,
It's all criminal, it's
It's
trial
all-
attorneys. There's just not value seen apparently in trial attorneys.
So can you help me understand how you grade, and I just am trying to understand between a 12 and a 20, because that's a pretty significant difference. So is it years of experience, is it,
Yeah, and it has to do with job assignment. So an ASA 1 will come in and be assigned to our traffic division or a misdemeanor division. Those are high volume courtrooms, but they're not necessarily as litigation heavy. And then as you move through the years with your experience, you get promoted within the office, and so the more significant caseloads, the ASA 5s and 6 under the proposal would be, the 6 would be the first assistant, the 5s would be the felony attorneys that are trying the murder cases, that are trying sex assault cases, the home invasions, things of that nature. So what I did was when I went and looked at these other budgets that are published, if they had people listed, I went and looked at the ARDC website, looked at how many years of experience they had. If they had their title listed as well, I could figure out where exactly they were put in other offices and then compare them to our office and where a comparable person would be at within our office. And that's how we came to these numbers.
So can you bring somebody in at a 4?
Yes.
Yes, Member Erickson.
My question is, it says here this request was included in the 2024 recommended budget. I guess this is for the county administrator. What does that mean? I think I understand what it means, but could you tell me?
So in the proposal that I will be addressing to you next Thursday, these numbers would be included in that budget. This request is to start that over.
How many months backlogged are you on the criminal side with all these vacancies? Is that
So the attorneys that we have there have done an exceptional job of keeping up and just managing. Sometimes that we triage, where, there's screening that needs to be done that isn't getting done as quickly as it normally does. Simply because those attorneys are spending their time in court more often. We've gotten creative and we've borrowed the assistance from the civil division in order to cover traffic court, and the contract person that you guys approved a little over a month ago has worked out really well in handling traffic cases, so I could pull the other attorneys that were covering that assignment into other areas of the office. It would be hard to quantify how backlogged we are, because unlike the public defender's office or the private bar, the defense bar, when a judge says you need to be ready for trial, we have to be ready for trial. So we are. And sometimes that means the prosecutor's working all weekend.
Member Lehman had a question.
Yeah, so you mentioned that it's hard to be competitive with the offer that someone just got in Logan County because of the classifications, right?
Yeah.
So this seems like we're looking at adjusting salaries and like that. Do we have any forethought at looking at adjusting structure or positions, or is that really kind of off the table and we're just focusing on existing structure within the organization and the salary that goes along with it?
This is with the foresight of trying to get more people in the office. So this is hopefully making us competitive with the market, so that we can recruit new people. And after that, I have a plan in order to headhunt some people if this gets approved. The Logan County, my point in that was that it's difficult to compete when you have somebody who is experienced enough to leave for a department head position, because when you're talking about a $50,000 pay raise, that becomes difficult to address, within our budget constraints, so.
I do have one more question, and that is, how are you going to, the existing assistant state's attorneys, how are you going to impact their salaries? Is there going to be a need to make adjustments to their salaries to help meet, the starting salaries here?
So this was with that in mind. I mean, they were kind of my guide, and so like I said, when I went to the out of county, I picked somebody out with 15 years experience. What is their job title? What do they appear to be doing based on the budget that's been published by that other county? Compare it to our attorneys, where they're kind of at, and with admin, we went line by line, person by person, and kind of compared and contrast, and I explained where those numbers were coming from, and then that is what drove the landing of what you see in front of you.
However, if I am a grade 18 currently, and I'm making 87,000, and you now have a grade 18 or grade 19, which seems to be the same level, and it's 92. Are we not raising that person that's
Correct.
making 87 to 92?
We're making adjustments, we made adjustments.
Perfect, that's
on
where I
that.
was at. Okay, I'm sorry if I
No, I
misunderstood that.
Didn't explain it well.
Okay, very good, because nothing, you already have churn. You don't want more churn because we didn't keep the current salaries up to date, the current employees' salaries up to date.
Absolutely, and they are my first priority at this point is to, for lack of a better phrase, plug the holes, but also to reward them for their loyalty, because, prosecutors are starting to figure out what they're worth and they know that they can go elsewhere, but they enjoy this county, they enjoy administration here, and they feel supported, and so that they are my first priority.
Alright, any additional questions? Alright. All in favor of 4F1C, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Very good, the motion passes. I do have a question for you. Is this consent or does this go to the board?
Goes to
Is
the
this
board.
part of the consent
This
agenda?
would go to the board.
Board under the consent agenda.
Under the consent agenda, okay. Right. Just wondering. All right, very good.
The reclassifications go to the board.
4F1D, request approval of a reclassification in the circuit clerk's department. And that was also distributed to us. Don Everhart is here. May I have a motion to put that on the floor, please? We have a motion by member Erickson. And a second by our vice chair, member Lehman. And I think it's explained very well, but Mr. Everhart, if you would please enlighten us with maybe cliff notes on this.
Okay. I currently have 10 full-time employees, administrative specialist ones, referred to as AS1s, within my criminal traffic division teams. These are a member of what we call the data management teams. Years ago, before my time, when there was a previous wage study, these teams were created in the criminal divisions because of the size of the teams, each division. So there was a data management team and a customer support team on each of those divisions, excuse me. The line of demarcation and pay between those two teams was one, customer support dealt strictly with the customers, the public. Data had no involvement with the public, period. They were strictly data. Since I've been in office and restructuring things, this data team started answering the phones as far as overflows, dealing with, if you'll please hold for the next customer support representative, or we'll get your name and number and have someone call you back. Well, we're moving forward and starting having them answer the phones and assisting the customers, taking some of that burden off of customer support. So now they're publicly engaging, public are involved with that. This is also enabling customer support to start moving forward to engaging in the courtroom. The courts want to now start moving some of my staff into the courtrooms. We've been doing that in family, we're doing that in criminal, now we're gonna start into traffic and having my staff go in and doing actual data entries within the courtroom at the time of those hearings. So we need this additional support. That support will increase. They'll take on more responsibilities with those phones. So I'm asking to upgrade them, not only for that purpose, to upgrade their fee, but also make this position more competitive.
Okay, questions?
And by the way, this will be budget neutral, because I will be giving up an AS1.
I did have a question and it just flew right out
I'm
of my
sorry.
brain. When you said that it was budget neutral, it just totally, obviously it must not be that important, so. Oh, I know so the individuals who are in the courtroom, they are, it's the process currently, it comes to them later, and then they enter data at a later date or a later time as opposed to being in the courtroom currently?
We are currently working, when I say we, the courts and the justice partners are working on a new case management system that when it goes into play, it's gonna be pretty much paperless, electronic.
Right, okay,
To start what some of the judges call baby steps, we've been engaging some of my staff in the courtroom where they'll actually enter the physical orders at that time and process those things. And it actually saves time because then my staff don't have to come back and do those things.
right, that's kind of what I was wondering, it appeared that you had, it was at a later time that this data was being entered and,
Exactly.
okay,
So it'll be a more efficient system as we're taking those steps.
very good, thank you. Any other questions?
I have a separate question, how,
Please, Member Erickson.
sorry, I never filed anything in criminal court, have they done that electronically yet, or they moved it there that way yet? Where we're doing electronic filings with criminal case filings?
I've been doing that permissively for a couple of years now,
Okay.
electronic filing court, criminal cases.
Cause I know
It's
everything,
not mandatory yet.
okay, so, cause I know everything in civil's like that now, right? That's the way it is, yeah, alright.
And at some point, quasi-criminal will be there as well. Which is true.
It's kinda cool that so they're gonna have them right in the courtroom now, and they're gonna enter the order right there, I mean, so you can do it there. That'd be
So we're doing it family and so forth with the criminals.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
If I could just add, I've been
Please.
in a courtroom where we've had the clerk in the courtroom, and it really makes a big difference because we used to get lots of questions after cases about what had transpired in court and asking the attorneys for clarification, and that's not a great system because attorneys were gonna be honest about what had happened, but it's better for it to go directly from the judge to the clerk in the courtroom rather than that lag, so I think it's a good idea.
It allows you then, you can reference that immediately, you don't have to, off the top of your head, said, this is what happened, yet in reality, there was a more detailed history within the application. So,
Absolutely.
okay, very good. All right, additional questions? Very good. All in favor of 4F1D, request approval of reclassification of the circuit clerk's department, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, if we can now go to 4F2B, because I'd rather not have us come back and do something else. If we go in, I'd rather us be able to walk away from the closed session, so in the other section, 4F2B, other, Ms. Taylor.
I have one additional comment to share with you all. We had a CDC loan program that was re-energized a couple of months back, and I am pleased to tell you that we've had our first application go through the CDC, and it's for a comic book business that will be in the east side of Normal, and they have taken advantage of the rent assistance that we offer in that program. So any of you, the CDC part of EDC.
Not the Centers for Disease Control.
I was wondering what you were talking about.
Community Development
I
Corps
mean,
as part of the Economic Development Council.
Alright.
Good to clarify those
Thank you.
acronyms.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you very much, Member Rogal and Member Erickson. All right,
Keeping me out of my acronyms, thank you.
so now we are going to move to 4F2A, and that is a closed session pursuant 5 ILCS 120-2C11, pending litigation when an action against, affecting, or on behalf of a particular public body has been filed or is pending before court or an administrative tribunal, or when the public body finds that an action is probable or imminent, in which case the basis of the finding shall be recorded and entered into the minutes of the closed meeting. May I have a motion to go into closed session? Member Roseman has made the motion, and the second is by Vice Chair Lehman. And I think he'll be shutting everything down, so we don't have to worry about this gets shut off automatically.
Yep, let's take a moment to shut things down and have people who were to be a part of closed session give them time to exit. Thank you.